Good afternoon and welcome to this proceedings of the Senate on the second day of October 2018. This afternoon, there will be a statement which will be sought pursuant to Standing Order number 48 by Senator for Garissa County, Senator Yusuf Haji, and that statement will be sought from the Standing Committee on Education on the award of scholarships by the Ministry of Education to Kenyan students studying outside the country in undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Also this afternoon, the Petroleum Bill, National Assembly Bill number 48 of 2017, will be debated for the second reading. The debate on this had already begun before it was interrupted on 26th September 2018. And thereafter, the Local Content Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2018, will also be debated for the second reading. This particular bill has been authored by the Senator for Baringo County, Senator Gideon Moi. And thereafter, the Impeachment Procedure Bill will follow, also for the second reading, as well as the Data Protection Bill, Senate Bills number 16 of 2018, and the Care and Protection of Older Members of Society Bill, Senate Bills number 17 of 2018. Those are bills which are set for debate for the second reading in accordance to the order of business this afternoon. Later, the Committee of the Whole House will be considering some amendments to the Food Security Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2017, as well as the Office of the County Printer Bill, Senate Bills number 7 of 2018, and the Disaster Risk Management Bill, Senate Bills number 8 of 2018, which has been jointly authored by Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. of Makueni County and Senator Johnson Sakaja of Nairobi County. A motion by Senator Kamar, which is active before the Senate, is in the order of business this afternoon, and the motion is on the establishment of youth polytechnics in the counties. The Senator is concerned that in Kenya, the number of young people who have completed the primary school education but have not joined secondary school continues to rise by the day. She is further concerned that county governments have not prioritized youth polytechnic functions despite the polytechnic's capacity to ultimately contribute to both social and economic development. Now, therefore, the Senate calls upon each of the 47 county governments to establish youth polytechnics in every location within their respective areas of jurisdiction and to revamp the already existing youth polytechnics, and also develop a structure, guidelines for sensitizing the youth who have completed their primary school education but have not joined Form 1 to embrace vocational training in order to acquire the necessary skills to join the labor market. That motion is active before the Senate, and it will see a resumption of debate on it. The last time the senators did debate on that particular motion was on 27 September 2018. Development and implementation of a national disaster risk financing strategy is another motion which will be moved before the Senate. This is according to the order of business. That particular motion will be moved by the Senator for Vihiga County, Senator George Khaniri, that the Senate urges the national and county governments to explore collaborative mechanisms for the Kenya Red Cross Society to support and implement a paradigm shift from post-disaster response to risk reduction by developing and implementing a national disaster risk financing strategy across all sectors and incorporate it into the national and county development planning and financing processes. That motion will be moved by the Senator George Khaniri, Senator Vihiga County. And finally, in the order of business, Another motion by the Senator for Narok County, Senator Ledama Olekina, and it regards the improvement of Kenya's position in the World Economic Forum Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Index. That the Senate calls upon the Ministry of Tourism to approach tourism sector with modern innovation and implement tangible, measurable, and impactful solutions, resulting in improvement of Kenya's ranking in the World Economic Forum Travel and Tourism Competitive Index 2019 by 6 positions, and improve the lowest score of cultural resources and business travel by 1 point. The Senate Speaker, Senator Kenneth Makelo Lusaka, taking a bow, ready to oversee business of the Senate. This broadcast is brought to you by PBU in conjunction with KBC.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, I have 2 communications to make. Honorable Senators, I wish to take this opportunity to welcome you back to Nairobi after the week-long sittings in Uasin Gishu County Assembly. Honorable Senators, as you may be aware, the Senate made a resolution to sit in the County Assembly of Uasin Gishu on 21st June 2018. This marked a very important part of our journey as the second Senate of the Republic of Kenya and the first time the Parliament of Kenya sat outside of Nairobi. It points to a key milestone and obviously permanent stamp in the annals of history. Honorable Senators, history is written by people who dare the journey. As we made history, I'm reminded about the challenges of catching the eye of the Speaker and a claim by some senators on how many times they should stand to be given a chance to speak. This was a clear departure from our digital system to a manual system and a reminder that we have the responsibility to ensure, to nurture our county assemblies in developing their systems. Honorable Senators, allow me from the onset to thank all senators who made time to attend both chamber and committee proceedings. This was a clear demonstration of our commitment in the Senate to pursue matters of interest to counties and protect the interests of the county governments. I admired the zeal and energy with which all senators were able to move from one committee room to another and to the level of engagement with the people of Uasin Gishu County. This was real-time public participation. Honorable Senators, we celebrate this historic milestone since the enactment of the Constitution. I wish to remind all senators of our key responsibility to protect the interests of the counties and their governments. I believe that by interacting with the people in the counties, we have been able to collect issues that require our legislative intervention. These sittings resulted in a number of interactions that have cemented the relationship between the Senate and the county governments. As you may have noted, the Ad hoc Committee on Maize and the Committee on Agriculture held deliberations with various stakeholders and public participation on issues of maize, which was widely covered in the mainstream and social media, resulting in the release of funds from the national government to the maize farmers. In the release of funds from the national government to the maize farmers. Three governors appeared before CPAC to give accounts of all the national revenue allocated to the counties by the Senate. The Finance Committee held meetings with counterpart committees in the county and undertook public participation on the Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill. The Health Committee addressed health funding with stakeholders at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. The Legal Affairs Committee visited the GK prison and remand in Eldoret, while in fact, I was happy because some senators said that was the first time they were going to prison, not as prisoners. While the Education and Health Committee, accompanied by the Senate leadership, visited special schools in Uasin Gishu. I wish to urge all senators who may have identified any matter that may require interventions of the Senate not to be hesitant to contact my office or the office of the clerk of the Senate for further advice and or facilitation. Honorable Senators, I also wish to express my gratitude to the leadership and the people of the county of Uasin Gishu for the warm reception we received. Honorable Senators, this welcome was not just ordinary. Honorable Senators, I also want to thank the Secretariat led by the Clerk of the Senate. The quality and speed with which work was done by our staff was exemplary. It was not easy to differentiate. It was not easy to differentiate that we were away from home. Work was seamlessly delivered to meet the demands of the Senate. Honorable Senators, I applaud you all for your commitment and dedication exhibited in the depth of your participation in the plenary sessions and committee meetings and engagements in Uasin Gishu. I thank you. Senator Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to join you in thanking our honorable senators for the wonderful sitting we had in Eldoret. I want to thank one and all for their great participation, not just in the House, but also outside the House. But I must thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the whole House for choosing to come to Eldoret on behalf of the people of Uasin Gishu County. We were honored and we felt privileged to host Senate in Uasin Gishu County. The people of Uasin Gishu are saying thank you. For the activities that were outside the sitting, Mr. Speaker, the people of Uasin Gishu learned a lot, and I would like to encourage that Senate goes out not just once a year, not because we don't want to be visited for 7 years after now, but we need to be out 2, 3, or even 4 times quarterly on the ground, because the benefits that the people of Uasin Gishu enjoyed are benefits that I would really recommend anywhere. Starting from the interactive sessions that the committees designed, which were excellently designed, Mr. Speaker, because although in this House we say our sittings are open and you can come and go to the gallery to watch and listen to sittings, the kind of situation that you get on the ground is different, because actually the public sit just behind the committee members and they were able to learn a lot. Some even sneaked in their questions. And one of the notable things that happened, Mr. Speaker, was the trips that we made. When the Committee of Roads visited the airport and the bypass, they were very surprised to receive a petition on the ground. And I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the clerk for coming to execute the same on the same day. They have never seen such efficiency, and they were very grateful. In fact, a lot of them called to say, we did not know that by giving you a petition, you will actually execute it in Eldoret. So I want to, again, thank them. I want to join you in thanking the staff. Our staff worked as though they were here. They moved very calmly. You would not see, but you saw a lot of action. Timekeeping was something that the MCS learned, that when it's 2, it's 2 o'clock. When it's 10, it's 10 o'clock, and they shared that. So actually, we showed a lot of leadership when we were on the ground. And as I say, these are experiences that should be spread through the country. The experience by the Committee of Health in the School of Medicine and the MTRH Hospital is something that we even need to share. We need the same committee to visit our largest referral hospital here in Kenyatta. Why? It's because we discovered, and I only took 10 minutes because I was a friend of the committee, to be in that committee, we discovered that our professionals are looking for avenues to meet us, and they are not able to meet us. So it was wonderful for them to have met. They expressed themselves. We are talking of the Big Four, Mr. Speaker, and it is important that we share the dream of the Big Four with the public. In fact, it came out in the meeting in MTRH that there are a few things that need to be looked at if universal health care has to be realized. And those are things that are very important for committees in this House to deal with. So, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to join you to thank the Senate and to congratulate the committees for executing their mandates very well, both in the House and outside, and even doing it in conjunction with members of the public. We are very grateful as Uasin Gishu that we are chosen to be the first ever destination, and as the host senator, I will forever be thankful, and I want to say finally, on behalf of the people of Uasin Gishu County, we are very grateful that you chose Uasin Gishu as your destination. God bless you.
Senator Bogisho Samuel.
Thank you very much, Speaker. This is basically to return thanks and appreciate you and your office for organizing such a very successful Bunge Mashinani, a situation which has been envisaged in the Constitution but had not been put to practice. So I want to thank you and your officers of this House for such a seamless and very successful 1 week in Uasin Gishu. Speaker, we saw something about the sovereignty which is embodied in the people of this country. I wasn't there at the May's public hearing, but you could tell there that the people exercise their sovereignty directly, sometimes not even wanting to through us. But that is just to show you that we should do more of this, Mr. Speaker. We should have more of this, meetings outside of our comfort zones. I'd like to thank members because we all basically adopted. We became natives of Uasin Gishu, literally, quickly, and we adapted to drinking mursik, and that became our diet. So it's possible then for us to move from place to place in this country, adapt to various cultures and various situations very quickly. The Senate, as only the Senate can do, and I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for organizing that. Thank you very much.
Senator James Orengo, Leader of Minority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I must first of all congratulate you for taking that bold decision. It has happened for the first time, and never before has any chamber of the House, when it was bicameral in the previous years, any of those chambers, National Assembly and the Senate, ever held its proceedings and sittings outside Nairobi, let alone sessions. So I think that was a matter of courage, despite what everybody would try to say. It is there in the Constitution that the Parliament can meet at any part of Kenya. And I think the other thing that it demonstrates is that every part of Kenya is as important as any other part of Kenya. So that in that respect, Garissa is as important as Nairobi. Mandera is as important as Garissa. Because sometimes when we say that we cannot cede any inch of the territory of Kenya, we should show it by taking important institutions in Parliament to those other areas. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if it was possible, I would ask the Parliament to go and meet in Migingo to assert the authority of the Republic, because everybody is scared of going to Migingo. And I think if we can go to Migingo, it will boost the spirit of citizens who are living in that island. They feel like they're not part of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, first of all, it is congratulate you for that very bold decisions. Now, the other thing that is very important is what is now anchored in the Constitution, people participation, that in every business that we do, including oversight, there should be participation of the people. And participation of the people, normally when we hold sessions here in Nairobi, it is for those who are able to get to Nairobi. This time, we could see people participation in Eldoret, and to that extent, the committees that met there did a wonderful job, including the ad hoc committee on the maize saga, where we heard directly from the farmers, and I think it was a very instructive meeting in Eldoret. Mr. Speaker, even the dignity of every person, whatever the status, one of the committees, the one on legal justice and legal affairs, went even to Eldoret prison. And that again is another demonstration that we're able to reach every citizen, however low or high that citizen is. So I hope that we'll use it as a basis for holding future meetings in other counties. And congratulate Professor Kamar. She was a good host and chaired some of the sessions. People in our own county could see Professor Kamar sitting on the chair belonging to the panel of the speaker's panel and chairing the ad hoc committee. I think, again, that boosted the sense of inclusion and participation for the people in that particular part of Kenya. And lastly, I think that we did a wonderful job, the business that we did. We concluded debate, at least to the extent of the readings of some of the bills. We had motions, including the ones to recognize the achievement of one of our sportsmen and sportsmen and women generally. Speaking on that subject in Eldoret had a particular significance, and I think that was also appreciated from the people in that area. I was talking to the governor of Elgeyo Marakwet together with the leader of majority, and he emphasized that, one of the sources of investment in a very real and significant way in that county is from our sportsmen and women. They're taking their money back home in the places where they come from, not just building houses, but putting their money in businesses and investments. And going to that area, again, accorded us the opportunity to see for ourselves that investments which we may take for granted are actually making a difference in those counties. So, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that decision, and I hope very soon we'll go to another county, including the possibility of going to Migingo. Thank you.
Senator Kilonzo Mutula Jr.
Thank you, Speaker. First, again, I want to say that I think this was momentous for many reasons. We also managed to bond. For some strange reason, Speaker, the leadership agreed to work together. The clip that is circulating on social media on the public hearing on the maize was not circulated by the traditional media. is being circulated by people who are visiting the social media. And it shows the patience of leadership led by you, Speaker, listening very patiently to people who, even to some extent, were criticizing ourselves, the leadership. I had the tremendous opportunity of meeting the Berlin Marathon champion, Eliud Kipchoge, and the lady in Nandi County. A very, very humble man. They also had the opportunity to go to MTRH. And Mr. Speaker, at this point, I must say that when I went for the public participation for the MTRH, I didn't know that I would end up on the operation table of Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital the following day. It's a good thing that we must improve healthcare. Mr. Speaker, I sat in an ambulance from Kapsabet, and I remember questioning the doctor as to whether, in real sense, that was an ambulance. It didn't seem like an ambulance to me, because if the situation was much worse than it was, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what those doctors would have done. Certainly, I have a great passion in ensuring that we have greater medical care, because the sort of operation, minor as it was, that I underwent at Moi Teaching Referral, Mr. Speaker, is most likely a landmark because it was non-intrusive, and in 40 minutes I was out of there, and Kenyans were at least relieved that it wasn't as bad as it was made to look like. Senator Kamar, we are proud of you. The first 3 elected senators, you being one of them, managed to showcase why we should have more women in leadership. I keep saying that, and fortunately when I do so, Senator Beth Mugo is normally in the House. I sat as a special rapporteur for the 162 parliaments on gender parity. And one person that was recognized in the Women Atlas of the world is one lady who doesn't speak much, Senator Beth Mugo. For the work you've done for the women of this world, that recognition is there. And our trip there confirms the reason why we should elect more women. Mr. Speaker, I've seen, and you have reacted to some of the comments I've seen in the press. I don't think we should bother very much with the naysayers who are not interested in the positive things we did in Eldoret. Mr. Speaker, if we can spend some money to showcase, whether it's in a documentary or whether it's in a paid-up advert, Mr. Speaker, I think you should showcase the things that we did. The mud houses that wardens are living in Eldoret is an embarrassment to this republic, Mr. Speaker. Yet there is a project worth so many millions that has been stuck for 10 years. Mr. Speaker, the only way to bring this matter to the attention of the world is if you find, even if we spend some money, bring it to the attention of the world that there are Kenyans who are living in mud houses while guarding other Kenyans. There are Kenyans who have been in remand and have had mentions since 2004, and their cases have not proceeded. Mr. Speaker, those are things that we must highlight, because these Kenyans are suffering. There's a gentleman who talked about the girl child. There are women who we met in the prisons who are even doing very nice knitting. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for taking this bold step. And I think we should sit less in Nairobi. Find a way of sitting in Isiolo, find a way of sitting in Turkana, find a way of sitting in Lamu. I would like to have a sitting in Lamu. Go by boat, sit on a donkey, Mr. Speaker. Let's have a sitting in Lamu County so that people can feel the presence of Senate. People were telling me, the ones we left behind, and Senator Margaret Kamar mentioned, there is less traffic in Uasin Gishu County. We definitely, other than the business, brought Eldoret back to life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I see a lot of interest, so I'll give the remaining just about 2 minutes. Senator Kibiru Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to join my colleagues by saying that it is a wonderful event. But Mr. Speaker, the issue now is how can we fast track some of the issues that came up out of the deliberations that we had in Eldoret. Mr. Speaker, you remember we went with you and visited a number of projects, and a number of issues came up. So I would ask that we expedite the issues that came up and be able to showcase that the trip we took to Eldoret can bear fruit. So, Mr. Speaker, some of the issues that came up is like the issues of the special economic zones, the way the investors are suffering and not getting the right attention. The other issue is the issues of cooperative movement. And also when we sat in the accounts committee, there was the issue of expediting the county attorney bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I would urge that as a Senate, we be able to expedite and come up with a showcase so that we can give feedback to people of Uasin Gishu that this is what we discussed, this is what came up, and this is what we have been able to expedite or to achieve for that reason. Thank you, Senator Kamal, for the wonderful time.
Thank you. Actually, the House Business Committee is already dealing with that issue that you are raising, which is very important. Senator Wambua Enoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Speaker, I also want to join my colleagues in congratulating you and the leadership of this House for the bold step to hold the sessions in Uasin Gishu. The Speaker, I had opportunity to visit this bypass under construction in Eldoret in the Roads Committee. We went to Mailitisa, went to Kapseret. As a Speaker, you could tell that people really need our services on the ground. As a Speaker, then I would want to challenge us that we ride on the success of the visit to Uasin Gishu to get a lot more committees visiting the counties to address issues that affect our people directly in those counties. The Speaker, I also want us to challenge our own county assemblies. Whenever they have sessions, they could set aside some time to go and sit under trees in those counties. And especially counties that have disputes, border disputes. They could have joint sittings of the assemblies to discuss issues affecting them and resolving those issues amicably with the residents on the ground, Mr. Speaker. I also want to take this opportunity to thank my teacher, Professor Kamar, for being a very good host. Though she had promised, Mr. Speaker, to take me to our farm, which she never did, but we'll follow up on that later, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chararge Samson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to thank you and colleagues who have an opportunity of visiting Uasin Gishu County. I think as the custodians and protectors of the interest of the counties, Mr. Speaker, sir, it was an honor as the neighbor. And I want to thank my colleague, Senator Professor Margaret Kamar, for hosting us very well. And I know Eldoret was, the people had opportunity to attend, and more so the people who benefited, Mr. Speaker, sir, were the people from especially Nandi County. I want to thank because also, Mr. Speaker, I had opportunity among other 13 senators led by Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. and Senator Susan Kihiga, among other colleagues who had opportunity. Senator Enoch Wambua and the rest were able to join me so that we could address the county. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I think the lessons we learned from there are very important. We didn't visit the GK prison in Eldoret. We did have opportunity of engaging many stakeholders that ensure they facilitate the issue of devolution going forward, Mr. Speaker, sir, and very, very many things. I want to thank our colleagues. And I hope, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the spirit of going forward, we should ensure we work across the country so that by the time we come and sit here, I know the naysayers, the prophet of doom, and many other people who did not want this success have tried to churn stories, Mr. Speaker, sir. But in the spirit of moving forward, let us not even have time of engaging them and ensure we go forward. I want to say the chicken from Nandi are very sweet, and Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. can attest to that. So anytime you feel it, you can have, I know, Mr. Speaker, sir, where you come from, they value chicken. So anytime you go to Bungoma, your home county, make sure you pass through Nandi County so that you appreciate how sweetness of the chicken is, courtesy of Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chicken that can land somebody in hospital cannot be sweet. Senator Munyihaji.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kujiunga na maseneta wenzangu kupongeza bunge la Senate pamoja na karani wetu na maseneta wote kwa session nzuri ambayo tulifanya kule mjini Eldoret. Vile vile pia nachukua fursa hii kumpongeza Senator Margaret Kamar, Senator Uasin Gishu, Professor kwa makaribisho na kutuangalia vizuri alivyotuangalia kwa muda wa siku 5 zote ambazo tulikuwa kule. Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa ni tajriba nzuri kwa sisi ambao tunahudumia Senate kwa mara ya kwanza, kwa sababu tumepata fursa kuonana na wananchi wa Kenya wengine ambao labda hatungeweza kuwaona katika kazi zetu za kawaida, kwa sababu sio wengi wanaopata fursa kuja hapa kutembelea bunge la Senate. Kwa hivyo safari zetu katika eneo la Eldoret zisiwe za mwisho, tuweze kutembelea. Na mimi kama Senator wa Mombasa nachukua fursa hii kualika Mombasa, wakati wote mkiwa tayari tuweza kuwa host Mombasa kwa usalama zaidi. Mwisho, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba tumeweza kusoma mambo mengi ambayo yanafanyika katika sehemu tofauti tofauti. Kwa mfano, tuliweza kusikia petition ya wakazi wa Kericho kuhusiana na zile ardhi ambazo zilichukuliwa na multinationals wakati wa nyuma. Na tatizo hilo liko katika kaunti ya jirani ya Nandi, na vile vile pia kaunti nyingi zina matatizo kama haya. Kwa hivyo haya ni mambo ambayo lazima bunge la Senate likae chini tuangalie tutaweza kuyatatua vipi kwa haraka, ili wananchi wawe na matumaini kwamba sisi tunaweza kutatua matatizo ya nchi ya Kenya. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, Mungu akubariki.
Senator Kihika Susan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also rise to support and state that it was a wonderful week that we as Senate had with Senator Mashinani, and it's one that should be replicated over time so that we are able to move around to different parts of this country. Some of us who had probably not spent as much time in that area of the county were able to interact and learn a lot of new things, in addition to drinking musik, which I think we drank every day for the whole week. In addition to that, it was really a pleasure to hear from the petitioners on some petition that we have in the legal committee. They were very passionate, and these were the petitioners on the ownership of land by multinationals. And they were from Kericho and Bomet, and just listening to how passionate they were and how much they looked to us to help resolve the issues really goes to show how important Senate is in this devolution. I was also able, with my Senate Committee of Legal and Justice, to visit the GKI prison of Eldoret, and was quite surprised by the eloquency of the prisoners there as they stated to us what the challenges were, and was shocked to learn that they go for years before they get to trial, which is really completely unacceptable. So as we move forward with prison reforms, it's great insight, and we are able to get that as senators firsthand. Then I believe we shall become better legislators back in the House, having interacted with the locals and having taken devolution to the people, really. So I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Haneri George.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity and join my colleagues in hailing you and the entire leadership of the Senate for the very wonderful decision, very well thought decision of going to Uasin Gishu the last week. Mr. Speaker, I want to join also my colleagues in thanking our host senator, Senator Professor Margaret Kamar, for the wonderful way she hosted us together with the entire county government of Uasin Gishu. Mr. Speaker, I want to state that going to Uasin Gishu was a game changer. Mr. Speaker, this was a game changer because people are now looking at devolution differently. People are now looking at the Senate in a totally different manner. It was not only a game changer, but it was also a wake-up call. Mr. Speaker, the whole idea of visiting projects after the sessions, and I'm sure we must make that a tradition, that we don't just go for the sessions and committee meetings. We must set aside a day to visit the projects so that we get to know what has the government done. Do they have any flagship projects? So it's a wake-up call because I can see some governors already panicking. When they come to my county, what projects will I take this Senate to go and see? So it's a wake-up call. People will start now initiating serious projects. So that must be part of the program in every county that we are going to visit. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, we must endeavor to visit at least 3 counties in a year, at least. On the very least. We can do better than that, Mr. Speaker. It's important. I think we also arouse the national government. I can.
Okay, add you 1 minute to complete here. Yeah.
1 minute to make a very important point because, Mr. Speaker, you realize the farmers have had so many meetings with so many leaders, but the moment the ad hoc committee led by Senator Wetangula and Senator Margaret Kamar met these farmers, and the fury that was exhibited at that meeting, we see now the government is acting and farmers are going to be paid. So I think it benefited the farmers of Eldoret. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Masinza Naomi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this time to join my colleagues into congratulating you for giving us an opportunity to have the sittings of the Senate outside Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also want to thank Senator Margaret Kamar for allowing us to be in her county and the comfort we met, or the comfort we got from her
Let's
as a
consult in low
senator.
tones
It was so
members.
overwhelming. Mr. Speaker, sir, one thing that I would want to commend it is that the implementation of the issues that we raised in Uasin Gishu should be considered to enrich the devolution that is wanting. Again, Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that the petition, when we had the petition in Uasin Gishu MTRH, it was one of the key issues. We had one of the key issues that were really raised in the Committee of Health, and we were able to get the crowd that we wanted. We were able to get the people that we wanted, and we were able to sort out so many issues that were actually coming with the petition at real time. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also want to say that it was really another downing moment when we were struggling to catch your eyes. I was alert. It made me to be alert throughout in the Senate so that I can catch your eyes to be elected or to be selected to have a word. And it was a moment that was met, or the moment that made me very happy because I remained alert, I remained focused, and it was a moment that gave me all the glory that I needed in the Senate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I congratulate Senator Kamar for allowing us to have the warmth that we had in Uasin Gishu. Thank you.
Senator Wako Siswila Amos.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I must say that the historic sitting outside Nairobi was very commendable, and I want to thank the senator for that area, Margaret Kamar, and the government led by Madingo, and the county assembly. They welcomed us very well, great hospitality, but at the same time, they drew us to the problems that are facing the county. Speaker, sir, I remember the meeting with the farmers. I remember the meeting at the hospital, which for the first time I was able to know really what the problems of level 5, level 6, of the unique problems of Eldoret Hospital are. Mr. Speaker, sir, I welcome the side events which were organized, which were very educative. I remember going to the Nandi. And although Nandi, somebody has boasted here that the Nandi chicken is the best, witness Senator Mutula Kilonzo, the Nandi chicken, Senator of Nandi, I'm talking to you, the Nandi chicken is not the best. The best chicken is from Busia, followed by Vihiga, followed by Kakamega, followed by Bungoma.
You are out of order.
Senator Wako.
The Nandi chicken is so hard. It's so hard that it nearly killed our senator. Ours is very soft, very tasty, very nice, and flows down the throat to the stomach.
Senator, you are out of order. You have not done any research to furnish this house with order. You are not on record. Senator Haji Farhia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I wish to congratulate you for leading us to Uasin Gishu. I also wish to congratulate Senator Kamar, Senator Professor Kamar, for being a great host, and for her to be for her county to have made history, being the first county that Senate or any other parliament had ever had a sitting. I had an opportunity to have a session of finance in one of the sittings. And you can imagine when, like Senator Mutula Kilonzo had said, when you put ladies into leadership position, they execute that position very well. We had a chief officer who was in one of our plenary discussing issues of budget and the cycle of budget in terms of the county. And I was impressed by how she was able to articulate. So had I not, and that shows you, if you put the right person with the right qualification, then they execute that role very well. And I have seen a testimony of that in the county. And I thank the governor for Uasin Gishu for giving that lady an opportunity. And she happens to be also in my profession. She's an ISPAC member. So I was very proud of her. I was really impressed. The other thing is I also had an opportunity to sit with the health committee in Eldoret.
Senator Kabaka Boniface.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity also to hear my view with regard to the visit to Uasin Gishu and our experience thereof. First, I would like to follow the cue with regard to congratulating our able Professor Kamar, the Senator of Uasin Gishu, for a very well organized visit to our county. Also, I would like to thank all the senators who participated. Virtually, this is one of the conference, if I may so call it, where every senator was well represented. And we thank God it all ended well. But what is important for me to state is that I have seen that the Constitution, especially Article 1, which speaks about the supremacy of the people, the power indeed has been devolved. And this is an unprecedented visit since independence for the last 50 years or so, where the parliament devolved to the people. I think we've already seen the naysayers from the other areas in parliament, without naming names, who went in depth. They are so blind and so ignorant not to see the importance of devolution. So I would like to say that the achievement which we've done is a big milestone, farmers are being paid, and projects which are going on are being audited. And of course, this visit.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, conclude.
Thank you. I think this visit, these are a kind of a warning shot to intolerant governors, in that anytime we are visiting, all the projects should be in place. Otherwise, the visit to Sri Lanka, for those who visited, including Professor Kamar, whom I accompanied, among other senators, on evaluation of the project, is of it's of very great importance. Mr. Speaker, sir, next time I'm praying that because of proximity of Machakos to Nairobi, the second visit should be in Machakos. Thank you.
Senator Ephraim Maina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I like also to add my voice to thinking that the visit was a very good event, and to congratulate Senator Kamau for having arranged this visit. Mr. Speaker, I think one of the greatest achievements that happened was the fact that the maize farmers were paid. But when we are doing that, we should cast our memories into how many other Kenyan farmers are suffering. We don't have to go to Uasin Gishu so that those people are paid. I wish we had pushed it here. Because if we say this is the modus of Palando, we'll deal with very few cases. Therefore, first of all, let me say I was impressed by that man who spoke. He spoke for many Kenyans. And truly, what he was saying is nothing new. Maize is actually our food, and it should be given priority. There are others, like coffee, there is the pastoralists who deliver their cattle in Athi River, and they have never been paid. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask this House that we identify some of these issues. And next time we go somewhere, let's rise up one day and say we want to go to a small dispensary somewhere, not just to the referral hospital, because these are some of the places that pathetic conditions are in. And Mr. Speaker, the visit was good, but let's say it was an eye-opener event for us to ask ourselves, the money we give, where does it go? We should not be giving money just for spreading gradually there and there. It should be money going to the 1 more minute, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, 1 minute, conclude.
Human, the way they cut you. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I just wanted to say that I was also very impressed with the people of Uasin Gishu. I looked at the people, and I must say they are very united, they are very organized, and they are very hardworking people. You can see all the developments that have come up in all that area. And I hope that we encourage those people to keep on, Senator Kamau, Senator Cheriot, and many others. I congratulate the people who Uasin Gishu. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Hope you have more and more opportunities.
Senator, and finally, Rose Nyamunga, we conclude that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me a chance to also appreciate the organizing committee, the secretariat, and your office and yourself, and also the Senator of Uasin Gishu, who have made our Senate Mashinani a success. I want to say we have actually learned quite a number of things. In the Education Committee, which we visited several vocational polytechnics, we learned quite a number of things that the counties, if given that capacity to also develop technical skills in the community, they can really do very good work. We also visited the ECD centers, and we saw quite a great work that was done by Uasin Gishu County in terms of developing ECD classes, in terms of developing standard ECD classes, which were done well. Apart from maybe we also need to look at a few other aspects in terms of administration offices for our ECD teachers, and also the playing grounds for our ECD children. We also managed to meet with farmers, and there are a number of things that came out in the ad hoc maize crisis committee. We learned quite a lot of things, and especially we realized that many counties have not yet realized that agriculture is fully devolved. And we saw
Senator Nyamunga Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also add my voice to congratulating the people, the leaders and the people of Uasin Gishu for hosting us. And first of all, Mr. Speaker, I would like to set the record straight. The first sitting was actually in Kisumu County. It was not in Uasin Gishu, because we started with having a sitting in Kisumu County. And I want to thank all the senators who managed to visit Kisumu County and the church service that we had. And that set record that we raised the quorum, which was about 17 Senate seated in Kisumu. That to me was very commendable. Secondly, I would like to say that devolution is working, and the devolve unit of health is actually working. Much as we had an unfortunate experience in Senator Mutula Jr.'s case, it proved to all of us that health actually works, because the short time that we took to move to from Nandi County to Eldoret, and the fact that by the time we reached there, all the medical staff was there to receive us and to treat one of us in record time. So that one, I think, was very commendable. And I want to thank the people and the doctors, the medical fraternity in Nandi County. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I would like to say that our visit was of great use to all of us, because we managed to do cross-cut. We cut across other neighboring counties like Nandi.
Members,
Elgeyo
let's consult with
Marakwet.
Lawton. Senator Kangata, please.
I'm making very important contribution. Yeah, so it gave us an opportunity to cut across the counties. So it was a good visit. We learned a lot from Uasin Gishu. We learned a lot from the governor, and the fact that he moves together with these people. And we only...
Okay, honorable members, I have another communication to make. As you may be aware, Kenya will be hosting a high-level conference on the sustainable blue economy from November 26 to 28, 2018 in Nairobi. The blue economy is a new frontier for development as we move to tap into the productive capacity of our water resources and empower communities in a sustainable way and build our economy. Honorable Senators, in preparation for the said conference, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has requested to have a meeting to appraise Honorable Senators on the state of the preparations for the said conference and deliberate on areas of collaboration with the Senate. The meeting is scheduled to be held tomorrow, Wednesday, 3rd October 2018 at 7:30 a.m. in the Senate chamber. The meeting will be preceded by breakfast, which will be served in the members' restaurant, Parliament buildings. Honorable Senators, in this regard, I take this opportunity to invite and urge all honorable senators to plan and attend this important meeting. I thank you.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Senator Yusuf Haji.
Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order 48, I rise to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education on the award of a scholarship by the Ministry of Education to Kenyan students studying outside the country in undergraduate and postgraduate levels. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the number and type of scholarship that have been granted the Ministry of Education to students for the last 5 years, indicating the area of study and the country of origin of the beneficiaries. 2, explain the method and criteria used in the award of the scholarship. And 3, provide a schedule indicating the names of the students that have benefited from the scholarship, completed their studies, and returned to the country of the same period. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Hargura.
Mr. Speaker, on the same statement, I'll just like to comment that this is an area where parts of this country has not benefited, and it's better we get a very clear understanding of what goes on in the Ministry of Education, because we hear of scholarships, but we don't know how they are given, and some areas, unfortunately, have not been benefiting at all.
Finally, Senator Maruma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I agree with the senator who brought that statement. It's true that people are given normally scholarships, but you'd never know how they got them, the criteria for selection, and even the regional balance, gender, and everything. So I think it should be expedited so that we get to know how the award of scholarships is done in terms of criteria and regional balance. I thank you.
Next order.
Order number 8, Petroleum Bill, National Assembly Bills number 48 of 2017, second reading, division.
We defer that one to next time.
Order number 9.
What's your point of order, Senator Haji?
Order the committee to give me the statement and the period for which they are going to take.
That's the Committee on Education to provide us
Order number 9, the Local Content Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2018.
That's also deferred.
Order number 10, the Impeachment Procedure Bill, Senate Bills number 15 of 2018, second reading.
Chairperson, Legal Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I beg to move that the Impeachment Procedure Bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2018, be read a second time. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank you for this opportunity and say that the Constitution of Kenya provides under Article 10, Sub-Article 2 on the national values and principles of governance. In particular, Article 10.2 provides that good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability bind all state organs, state officers, and public officers. Impeachment is one of the tenets of ensuring that certain state officers exercise executive authority both at national and the county level. Mr. Speaker, sir, this impeachment procedure bill provides for the procedure for removal from office by impeachment of the president and the deputy president, removal of the cabinet secretary, impeachment of the governor and deputy governor. Mr. Speaker, sir, the procedure of removal of a county executive committee member, among others. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to say from the onset, as the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010 And it is good we have one of my legal committee members, Attorney General Emeritus, Senator Sutsila Amos Wako, and this is in line with ensuring that we come up with legislation, Mr. Speaker, sir, to facilitate what we have seen before, Mr. Speaker, sir, in terms of impeachment, especially within our counties, is that members of county assembly are falling into trap where they don't have a proper or a standardized procedure or legal framework that will facilitate their issue. Impeachment is not a novel idea. Is not a novel idea introduced by the Constitution or proposed by this bill. This remedy has been historically available in various systems of law. For instance, Mr. Speaker, in the 14th century, England, impeachment was a means of initiating criminal proceedings based on clamor or outcry. However, subsequent subjects of impeachment were often political figures. Usually royal misdemeanor and impeachment became not merely a means of initiating criminal proceeding, but also a method of trial. In the United States, Mr. Speaker, sir, Alexander Hamilton, the Chief of Staff for George Washington, and one of the interpreters and promoters of the U.S. Constitution, wrote the impeachment is a method of national inquest into the conduct of public men. And I think he meant public women. Mr. Speaker, sir, in this light is that impeachment is not based on criminal activity, but rather morality and professional conduct. For instance, in July 2014, a member of Missouri House of Representatives filed articles on impeachment.
Members, let us consult in low tones. We are discussing a very important. Okay.
I don't know, Mr. Speaker, sir. I don't know why Senator Irungu. They are all members of the legal committee, coincidentally, led by Senate Minority Leader Senator James Orengo, AG Emeritus Senator Amos Wako, and the newlywed in town, Senator Irungu Kangata. I don't know whether he's experiencing new excitements in the marital bliss. That's why he's sharing with colleagues. So, Mr.
Proceed,
Speaker,
Senator Jeremy.
or maybe he's getting tips on how to proceed in some of those issues. From the most experienced, Senator Orengo and Senator Sutsila Amos Wako. Against Governor, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's not based on barata morality and professional conduct. So it is not a criminal trial, Mr. Speaker, sir, but to ensure that it's based on morality and professional conduct. For instance, in July 2014, a member of the Missouri House of Representatives filed articles of impeachment against Governor J. Nixon, who was a Democrat, for ordering Missouri's Department of Revenue to accept joint tax returns filed by same-sex couples who had been legally married in other states. The Missouri Constitution prohibits the state from recognizing same-sex marriage. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is not a criminal activity as such, but rather morality and professional conduct, where it's a political trial process, and I think that is the essential that we have done, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, this behooves the question, what is an impeachment? During Senate's consideration of the report of the special committee investigating proposed removal from the office of the governor of Kericho County, I think he's also still the current governor serving the second term, Professor Paul Chekwan, the Senate adopted with approval the exposition of Senator Miriam Defensa Santiago of the Senate of Philippines, who in a keynote address at a workshop said that an impeachment trial is a unique process because it is an hybrid. Impeachment is both quasi-judicial and quasi-political. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I had indicated, these powers of quasi-judicial and quasi-political it is neither civil or a criminal case. A criminal case is designed to punish an offender and to seek retribution. In contrast, impeachment is the first step in a process that tries to remedy a wrong in governance. So, Mr. Speaker, I said this is an issue of governance that we are trying to improve on the standards or ability where collective responsibility or public holders have an opportunity of ensuring they provide. It has been said that the purpose of impeachment is not personal punishment, but rather to maintain constitutional government through the removal of unfit official from position of public trust. The courts in Kenya, I think the first generation of devolution and the impeachment of Governor Wambora, Governor Paul Chepkwony, and the late governor of Nyeri County, as set out, the courts have grown on the specific jurisdictions that it is a sui generis process that is quasi-judicial in nature, and the rules of natural justice and fair administration action must be observed. I think when you look at the bill or the law that we are trying to bring in place as the legal committee, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are trying in sense, because during the first generation of impeachment of governors, after the proclamation of 2013 and subsequent elections of 2013, of 2010 proclamation of the Constitution, and 2013, Mr. Speaker, sir, there was an aspect where people could rush to court, and even before the matter could be heard at that point in the impeachment procedure, there were already injunctions in place and many others. Therefore, the purpose of impeachment is therefore not to abortion culpability, criminal or otherwise, but is to ensure that the people of a county are governed in a manner consistent with the Constitution and laws of Kenya. Impeachment is therefore ensures accountability, political governance, as well as policy and political responsibility. And that is why I want to assure the Council of Governors and 47 county chiefs that the bill in itself is not in any way targeting. In fact, we are trying to enrich and ensure that we come up with laws that will facilitate a seamless running of our counties, Mr. Speaker, sir. And it will ensure that when somebody is given an office, they don't do as they wish. The threshold of accountability should go high, and political governance. I know collective responsibility and political accountability or responsibility is something that is rare, like a snowball in hell in this country. But I want to assure you, with this law coming into force, Mr. Speaker, sir, it will at least put into. So governors and anybody else should rest and be assured that they are not a target. But we are trying to assist also, you know, members of County Assembly, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are trying to give them the capacity of ensuring that they do their work followed with a procedure that is in place. And in fact, before it comes to the Senate, Mr. Speaker, sir, give the opportunity that they ensure they put in place and follow the procedure so that they don't run into headwinds of legal procedures. The Speaker, sir, is therefore against this backdrop that this bill seeks to provide for the procedure for the removal from the office by impeachment of a president, deputy president, cabinet secretary, governor, deputy governor, and member of county executive. So I think this House has been given powers by the Constitution, especially on the impeachment of the president, and therefore we are trying to put in place the necessary procedure to factor in some of these issues, and even the cabinet secretary, where the cabinet secretary has not discharged his duty as provided by the law or as provided within the tenets that are within the legal framework in this country, they can be still impeached. And I think even apart from the impeachment procedure of governor and county governor, deputy governor, the impeachment of a member of county executive will also ensure the accountability level of CECs within our county governments the threshold is quite high, so that when a member of county executive they can be impeached, and therefore we in fact giving more powers to the MCAs so that they can be able to assist the governor in running the county as it should be. And therefore, even in the first generation, Mr. Speaker, it's worth to note that most of the CECs could not be removed in office simply because there was no procedure or there was no process on how a member of a CEC could be removed. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill provides a definite law on impeachment proceedings, thus ensure the removal of certain state office holders is carried out through the due process of the law. So I insisted before that now we are trying to ensure that the process is followed so that when somebody does not need to move to the court and because of some of the missing links between when the procedure has started, The bill also sets mandatory timelines for various stages, and I think this is important, impeachment proceedings, thereby ensuring that the proceedings are expedited. Further, by proposing a period of within court matters relating to impeachment proceedings shall be concluded. The bill will minimize anxiety over prolonged and decided fate of the chief executive of the nation or a county or other members of their cabinets. Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that so that we don't risk somebody has been impeached or the process, and therefore there is a lot of anxiety, noting that most of our judiciary process or judicial process sometimes take longer than anticipated. It will put to rest also the person being impeached or even the public, so that they have time. Article 145 of the Constitution of Kenya, as read together with Article 151B and 2, provides for the removal of the President and Deputy President by impeachment. And I think in this respect, a member of the National Assembly supported by at least a third of the members may move a motion for the impeachment of the President or the Deputy President on the grounds of gross violation of the Constitution or any other law, serious reasons to believe that the President or the Deputy President has committed a crime under national or international or for gross misconduct. Article 145 further provides that the motion is supported by at least 2/3 of the members of the National Assembly. The Speaker of the National Assembly shall inform the Speaker of the Senate. In the procedure of the removal of the President and the Deputy President by impeachment under Article 145, 151, sub-Article 1B and 2, the National Assembly may be described as an indictment chamber, while the Senate is the trial chamber. And I think that is what is important. So the process, as all of us are aware, provided constitutionally, starts for the National Assembly with a third on terms of impeachment. In this, therefore, the Senate may establish a special committee to investigate the grounds contained in motion for the impeachment of the President. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Constitution has provided a more elaborate process on how the President or the Deputy President should be impeached, and therefore it kickstarts from the National Assembly. Then that is why I have summarized, and I've called the National Assembly the indictment chamber, and the Senate becomes a trial chamber in terms of, and the Senate, of course, as it does with the governors, may form a special committee to investigate grounds containing in a motion for the impeachment of the President. But I think it is more important for the posterity, for some of us who have the dreams of becoming the presidents of this country and the Deputy President, be well advised on the law that is in place. But I want to assure that during this time, the law might not be used, because there is no one who is supposed to be impeached, either the President or the Deputy President, unless the governors. Article 152, sub-article 2 of the Constitution provides that a member of National Assembly supported by at least 1/4 of all members may move a motion requiring the President to dismiss a cabinet secretary. And I think if the motion is supported by at least 1/3 of members of National Assembly, Article 152, because the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, has vetting powers, and they also vet the cabinet secretaries. Article 152, sub-article 2 of the Constitution requires the National Assembly to establish a select committee to investigate the matter and report on whether the allegations have been substantiated. So Article 152, Mr. Speaker, sir, of the Constitution gives the National Assembly the power to ensure the cabinet secretary is dismissed. And anyway, if the National Assembly were alive and they were not moribund or ineffective, they are, Mr. Speaker, most of the cabinet secretaries should have been impeached as it is now. But unfortunately, because of many issues that are there and people receiving 10,000 shillings, members of National Assembly in toilets, it is hard to effect some of these things. To establish a select committee to investigate the matter and report whether the allegations have been substantiated. So that is the ideal law. The other law of giving allegations of receiving 10,000 in toilets and lounges, the ideal law would have been this. Article 181, sub-article 1 of the Constitution, provides for the removal from the office of a county governor. And I think this is where we are, and I think this is what we used in the first generation of devolution. And we saw Governor Ambora, Governor Paul Chepkwony of Kericho, the late Governor of Nyeri, Nderetu Gachagua, among others, where there is serious reason for believing that the county governor has committed crime under national or international law, abuse of office, gross misconduct, or physical or mental incapacity to perform the functions of a county governor. I think what we have done, Mr. Speaker, sir, is to import this Article 181 and try to breathe life and ensure we create a procedure, because this abuse of office, gross misconduct, physical or mental incapacity to perform the functions of office of the county governor are in place. When you look at Section 33 of the County Governments Act of 2012, provides that a member of county may move a motion for the removal of the respective governor. And I think now we are trying to ensure we have synchronized that law even to the level there we have a unified or one law that provides, so that we avoid or we don't have to have at Section 33 of the County Governments Act, but we have a more elaborate process on how this should be done. And therefore, I think the removal, and I think MCS were using during the first generation, and Mr. Speaker, sir, we are lucky because you were a former governor of Bungoma County, and therefore you knew the members of County Assembly, the dangerous and more lethal weapon they used to have was to ensure they blackmail you or any other governor to fulfill their selfish interests. I know in this nation we have very good MCAs. They know their work, but when they decide to intimidate and blackmail you and remove the lethal weapon of mass destruction, then as a governor you should be very worried. The motion shall pass if supported by at least 2/3 of the members of the County Assembly. The resolution for the removal of a governor is then transmitted to the Speaker of the Senate. The Senate may establish a special committee to investigate the matter. Therefore, similar to the removal of the President by impeachment, the respective County Assembly is the indictment chamber again, Mr. Speaker, while the Senate is a trial chamber. And that is when I know Kenyans have known, and it is good we have second or current serving senators that have undergone through this procedure. And many people who are dreaming or imagining or planning to run for governor, like Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., who wants to run for governor of Makueni, Senator Susan Kihiga, among others. I can see retired Judge Senator Stewart Manzayo has been putting his arsenal together for Titanic battle in his county. So be well advised on how this procedure so that you can know how to evade when times come. Because this is more of quasi-judicial or quasi-political process. So it can't be criminal, neither civil. So that is be well advised. Part 2, just to run through, Mr. Speaker, because I know there is a lot of interest on this bill, and I know my colleagues would want to freshen up and also add 1 or 2 issues. This part outlines, when you look at part 2 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, removal of the President and the Deputy President, this part outlines a procedure for the removal of the President and the Deputy President by impeachment and gives further details with respect to the timelines within which such impeachment proceedings should be concluded in the National Assembly and the Senate. This, as I've said during my opening remarks, Mr. Speaker, is to put the nation, you can imagine if the process of impeaching the President or impeaching the Deputy President is ongoing. If we do not have a timeline where the courts can intervene, or where we do not have timeline, Mr. Speaker, sir, where we can conclude the matter, then either even the person in office, because we want it to be timely, so that the person in office does not take advantage, because the longer it takes, the process can be manipulated. So, and even the courts have been given time when they can intervene for the entire process, Mr. Speaker, sir, on that. And I know the change in the seat of Speaker. We welcome you, Deputy Speaker, and the Chair at the moment, Senator Professor Kithure Kindiki.
Thank you.
Impeachment proceedings commence when a member of National Assembly submits a motion in a prescribed form. And I know my colleagues, as you go through the bill, we have in the schedule, we are provided, that the bill has provided for that, with a member of National Assembly submits a motion. And I know this is where now many people are asking, how does it start? Because the Constitution will try to provide an elaborate process. But at least 1/3 of the members of the National Assembly to the clerk of the National Assembly. The clerk If satisfied that the motion complies with the act, shall submit to the Speaker of the... And this point, also the clerk will look at the bill and also what the grounds that are provided by the Constitution. Shall submit to the Speaker of the National Assembly. The Speaker of the National Assembly shall examine the motion, and if satisfied that it complies with the requirements, notifies the member within 3 days. So this is the timeline that we have increased. So when the member of National Assembly does that, within 3 days, they are supposed, the Speaker should have responded. The member is required to move the motion within 14 days of the notice. And therefore, the National Assembly is also required to dispose the matter within 7 days. If 2/3 of the members of the National Assembly vote in the support of the motion, the Speaker of the National Assembly informs the Speaker of the Senate within 2 days. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, within 3 days, after being transmitted from the clerk to the Speaker, it now within, if the member of National Assembly gets the necessary support, Mr. Speaker, then from there, within, it is voted on within 7 days. After 14 days, can move within 14 days. Within 7 days, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's being voted on. And within 2 days, the Speaker of the National Assembly should transmit to the Speaker of the Senate, of the Senate within 2 days. And I had started my comments. I had said that National Assembly at this instance, in summary, so that we can work together in the script, is that the National Assembly becomes the indictment chamber, the Senate becomes a trial chamber, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we have tried to bring timelines so that we ensure the process is carried expeditiously. Within the 7 days of receiving the notice of resolution of the National Assembly, the Speaker of the Senate is required to convene a meeting of the Senate to hear charges against the President, and the Senate may appoint a special committee whose role is to investigate the allegations against the President. And I think in the same instance as governors, we have also introduced the special committee. And Mr. Speaker, sir, this is the inception of this Senate. At least there are quite a number of impeachment proceedings that have gone through the process. If the special committee finds the allegations to be substantiated, the Senate is to vote on the impeachment charges. The President has a right, just the way we have done with the governors, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I know you served in the first Senate after the 2010 Constitution. They have a right to defend themselves, Mr. Speaker, sir. The date, and therefore the President, if he wants to defend himself, he can choose to or not, can appear before the Senate. There is supposed to be even date and time and place, so that he can also tell the side of history. And I think, Mr. Speaker, sir, you as a professor of the law, you know what is important is the principles of natural justice, where you have to hear both sides. If the 2/3 of the Senate vote to uphold the charges, the President ceases to hold office. And I think, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to assure the House that we are necessarily putting the law into place. And Mr. Speaker, sir, before you just came in, it is well advised that if anybody imagines or dreams or is putting his arsenal to run for presidency, they should be well advised with the law. I know the current people in power, both President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, we might not impeach them anytime soon. But if yourself or the rest of want to run for president, you should be well advised or become the deputy president. Because I know of people in this house.
Senator, are you making this law for particular people?
No, Mr. Speaker, I was just using a comparison studies and comparative analysis that are in place. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to, I was advising people who want to become running mates or run for presidency, you should read the law. So that when we want to impeach you in future, I know of my friends who want to become running mates, others want to run for presidency in this house. They should get advice so that when even others who have not been senators, they can be ahead of them. Mr. Speaker, sir, and we are praying for them, by the way, Mr. Speaker, sir. We are praying for those people who want to become running mates. So we are making this law to enrich the Constitution.
There appear to be very many.
Of course, Mr. Speaker, that there are many, and I know them by name. But before the Holy Spirit guides them, we will mention them when that time comes and in appropriate forum, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I want to assure, even the people I have known, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me move to the part, the removal of a cabinet secretary. So if you are in a winning team in preparing for 2022, and you want to be the cabinet secretary, please pay attention so that, Mr. Speaker, sir, you know where you can fall in. A motion in prescribed form is made by a member of the National Assembly requiring the president to dismiss the cabinet secretary. And I said, Mr. Speaker, sir, if the members of National Assembly, and I'm not accusing them of anything, if the allegations is to go by, if the members of National Assembly were focused on their work of oversighting the national government cabinet secretary, Mr. Speaker, not less than a half of the cabinet, as it is constituted, should have gone home, Mr. Speaker, sir, for many issues. But you know, when you hear allegations of members of National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, sir, receiving 10,000 shillings in public toilets, Mr. Speaker, sir, on allegations of such, and some of them have admitted before that.
Would it make a difference if the toilet was private?
No, yeah,
you seem to be saying the allegations are committed in public toilets.
No, it is within the presence of Parliament. And I don't know, Mr. Speaker, sir, whether toilets that are in a National Assembly, the National Assembly and the Senate, whether they are public toilets or private toilets, because public cannot use and members can use. So maybe it's the corridors, it might be the lounges and everything, Mr. Speaker, sir. But I want to say if we...
the Senator, the classification of the toilet is irrelevant for purposes of your argument.
Yeah, in fact, yes, it is. Mr. Speaker, sir, these are some of the issues that are in public domain. I'm trying to tell Kenyans what the members of National Assembly should be doing in impeachment of the cabinet secretary vis-a-vis what allegedly they are doing. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, the clerk of the National Assembly forwards the motion to the Speaker. Upon confirming that the motion complies with the bill, the Speaker of the National Assembly examines the motion. If the motion complies with the procedure, the member intending to move the motion is notified within 3 days. So you realize, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are trying to create short timelines so that we don't create space for monkey business. And you know, Mr. Speaker, sir, African countries or anywhere across the world, if you create more time, there can be monkey business where there's some issues that can come up. And therefore, we want also to put to rest the anxiety of our particular cabinet secretary. We want also to put the nation at rest so that we don't have an anxious nation. Because if we don't give timeline, it will mean the office holder of a cabinet secretary might even delay the process of discharging its mandate. The member then moves the motion, and if supported by at least 1/3 of all the members, the National Assembly is required to appoint a select committee to investigate and report to the National Assembly within 10 days. So, Mr. Speaker, 3 days within 3 days. Now, within 10 days, the Speaker is given the power to investigate after the motion is supported by 1/3. If the select committee finds allegations, the cabinet no further proceedings are to be taken. If to be the National Assembly is to vote. So if these allegations, Mr. Speaker, sir, are substantiated, the resolution requiring the cabinet secretary to be dismissed is supported by a majority of members of the Speaker is promptly to deliver the resolution to the President, and the President shall dismiss the cabinet secretary. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you see, even in the process of the President, we have tried also, in respect of principles of natural justice, to ensure that the cabinet secretary, if they wish so to defend themselves, they can appear before the select committee during investigations, or choose not to. So that, Mr. Speaker, sir, by the time the National Assembly is concluding on removal, it is very easy. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, finally, on my second part of the final moving on these notes is part 5, removal of the county governor and deputy governor. And we want to ensure that, Mr. Speaker, sir, that Senate, their business is not to impeach or remove county governor or deputy governor. What we are trying, Mr. Speaker, sir, is to put in place the law that will ensure seamless, ensure transparency, ensure accountability, ensure the holders of office behave, conduct themselves in the manner that befits a serious state officer or an office holder, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, a member of the County Assembly, I think in the light, and we have looked at Article 181 of the Constitution, we have looked at Section 33 of the County Governments Act, Mr. Speaker, sir, in line to this, the members of County Assembly, Mr. Speaker, sir, you are finding that in the first generation of devolution, you are finding so many, Mr. Speaker, sir, or members of County Assembly, some of them could not know where to start when they wanted to impeach the process of the governor. Mr. Speaker, sir, I happened to attend the funeral of the late Ambassador George Gordia in Vihiga. And of course, as you know, the politics of the day, and the MCAs wanted, there were allegations that they want to impeach the governor of Vihiga, called Governor Wilberforce of the Chilo. And the MCAs, they were wondering which process to start with. But I'm telling them to hold their horses until this law becomes an act, so that they can, we would want also to see this law put into action and to see if they have gotten the necessary in place. Mr. Speaker, sir, a member of the County Assembly who intends to move a motion for the removal of the governor is required to submit the motion to the Speaker of the County Assembly in a prescribed form. So, Mr. Speaker, we know there are challenges, Mr. Speaker, sir, on the issue of capacity. I'm not saying, Mr. Speaker, sir, leadership is that you should go to school or you should have, of course, there are minimum requirements that you must have academic qualification or a particular standard as provided by Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. But with the challenges that come out, so that we have a standardized procedure, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have tried in all intents and purposes to put in place a standardized form, so that this prescribed form will guide our members of County Assembly on how, Mr. Speaker, sir, should ensure that they remain, the Speaker of the respective County Assembly is then required to examine the motion. If it does not, I know, Mr. Speaker, sir, there was contention in this. It does not comply with the requirements of the bill. Decline to approve the motion and inform the member of the reasons of such refusal within 4 days. The reason, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have made that this motion to be looked by the County Assembly Speaker of a respective county within 4 days is to prevent what I had said earlier, monkey business. We know the running of counties nowadays, Mr. Speaker, sir. If we don't have proper laws in place, we might be running to criminal enterprises in our counties. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, within 4 days, I don't know whether, you know, this is, I've come critic, Mr. Speaker, sir, because I know you as a professor of law, that many people would imagine what we have tried and introduced reasons as to why a County Assembly Speaker might approve or decline, so that we don't risk it because somebody allegedly has met somewhere with the governor somewhere and they have decided to do monkey business. They decide that motion should not go through, and yet the grounds that have been raised by an MCA are very valid. So, Mr. Speaker, that is why we are put within 4 days. So it is either if it is the luck, or is either luck or in better place wisdom of the County Assembly Speaker. If it is lack of it, they must give us the reasons. If it is in his wisdom, they must give us reasons. And I think that will ensure the Speaker is required to notify the member within 4 days, citing reasons for the refusal. And I have said that. The bill further provides that if the Speaker fails to respond to motion within 7 days, the motion shall be deemed to have been approved. So, you know, Mr. Speaker, sir, in this country, especially when you are an office holder, some people sometimes could decide to disappear or create their own kidnapping. And I think they were, in the first generation, I don't want to mention names, some people decided to disappear for 1 week. And I think it came to attention of this Senate at that point in time. So if, for example, the Speaker is fearful, you know how powerful governors can be. I know you know. Even shaking hands, it's hard to shake their hands. If they decided to disappear.
I don't know, Senator. I don't know. I don't know.
Mr. Speaker, I can tell you they are so powerful.
How so?
They are so powerful because the resources they control. They have their own governments. That's how they are powerful. They have machinery that has resources at their disposal. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm saying that out of experience. Mind you, yours truly received the wrath of the first county governor of Nandi when I was attacked by goons. So I know how powerful they are. When I see they running around, I know they can be dangerously, they can ensure that you don't see the day of light. But in this, because if the speaker becomes fearful or dominant, and they decide, by the way, you know, somebody can decide to disappear. We have provided the law within 7 days. If the speaker has not approved of a county assembly, if they decide to do chicken business or a monkey business or a cow business, Mr. Speaker, sir, and decide to hide even in their bedrooms, even in their underbeds, and ensure that they cannot come out to approve this motion, within 7 days, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is deemed to be approved. So that is what we have ensured, so that also we protect the MCAs who are moving, or an MCA that is moving that. The member then moves within 14 days. That is why, Mr. Speaker, as I have said, we have tried to create a timeline from even the president impeachment, the deputy president, the cabinet secretary, the governor and deputy governor, the CC in place, Mr. Speaker, sir. Is required to serve the governor with a copy of the motion and invite the governor to be heard. And I think this is a new thing because we are now giving opportunity to the governor to appear before the MCAs. I know Council of Governors might see these, especially governors, I know we don't have at the moment, that suffer from inferiority complex. If they don't wish to appear before the MCAs, they choose not to be. But if they respect the law and the spirit of devolution, they must appear, in my own opinion, before the MCAs, so that they can be heard also, because these are principles of natural justice. And we are giving them, in fact, we have created a copy of motion, so that by the time a governor is appearing, they have an opportunity of even telling the side of the story. If the county assembly, the 2/3, that's why I wanted to dwell on this side, because majorly we want to ensure that the capacity of the MCAs, if the county assembly by 2/3 majority, suppose the proposed impeachment of the matter and then proceeds to the Senate. In this regard, the Speaker of the County Assembly shall submit the notice of motion and any other necessary documentation to the Senate within 3 days. And I think, Mr. Speaker, you need to note this, that within 3 days, so that we fast-track the process. Within 10 days of receiving the resolution of the County Assembly, the Speaker of the Senate is required to convene the meeting of the Senate to hear the charges against the governor. In this regard, the Senate may investigate the matter with or without the involvement of a special committee. So it is choose and pick. Therefore, the Speaker can instruct, and I know this Senate has done before, and the process is almost similar. If majority of the county delegations of the Senate to vote to uphold the impeachment charge, the governor will cease to hold office, and the Speaker of the Senate will inform the Speaker of the County Assembly of that resolution. If the Senate vote fails, then a motion to impeach the governor on the same charges may only be reintroduced in the County Assembly 90 days from the date of the previous Senate vote. I know there is a contention of this.
That's it in terms of this law. We have factored in the Legal Affairs Committee various
have been given to really determine what is a gross violation of the Constitution. Not just a mere violation of a Constitution, but a gross, which must be more than a mere violation of the Constitution. And what is gross misconduct? Again, something that must be more than just a misconduct. Speaker, sir, we also noticed from the experience of last term that if we permitted, as we did, interventions by the court at all times to intervene in the process, then those who boasted outside these chambers that nothing will happen to me, I'll be governor until the next general election. And Mr. Speaker, sir, we saw that prophecy being fulfilled in the case of one governor who had boasted that he will remain governor until the next election. And he did remain the governor until the next election, and he was cleared by the Independent Electoral Commission. And he did campaign, and he did win, and the process has begun again, going from court to court. And I believe now it's at the Supreme Court level, although I can see that the senator of that area is trying to intervene to see if he can reconcile the two big heads of that constitution. So this power is important. The chairperson of the committee has explained in detail what is in the act, in the bill, sorry. And his seconder, Mutula Kilonzo Jr. has also given in detail not only what is there, but has also talked about our experience in this regard. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I will be very, very brief. Number one, I want to emphasize that gross violation of the Constitution and gross misconduct, which is the ground which is runs through President, it runs also through the governor, the cabinet secretary, and when it comes to the county executive member, that's the place where we have been a bit detailed here, because we have not just said gross misconduct, gross violation of the Constitution and so on. For the county executive, because they are not mentioned in the Constitution, it became necessary to mention them, those grounds in this act. And we mentioned them in this act, and I believe we are borrowing almost word by word from the County Governments Act. There we have said the county executive committee member can be removed because of incompetence, abuse of office, also gross misconduct comes in, physical and mental incapacity, and gross violation of the Constitution. What you have added there really is incompetence and abuse of office. And as we know, Mr. Speaker, sir, abuse of office is really an offense under our penal code, is also an offense under our ethics and anti-corruption bill, a specific offense. So there it's mentioned. So that really in the exercise of these powers, I just want to, we cannot be frivolous. We cannot use personal vendetta. We cannot use purely personal agenda in exercising these powers, Mr. Speaker, sir. For to do so, we would ourselves be behaving in violation of our Constitution. Again, in the spirit, Mr. Speaker, sir, of our Constitution. And I'm saying this, Mr. Speaker, sir, because when you hear what has been happening, particularly in the last time, you hear, and this came out very clearly, Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe in the case of Makueni, where because an executive committee, county executive member was not able to do what the county assembly member wanted, or members wanted, they would leave his office and say, we shall meet in the chamber and we are going to impeach you. That was always a threat. And when we went round, I was on the committee on devolution and so on, when we went round, that was the common threat of county assembly members threatening members of the executive that if you do not do what we want, if you do not provide a vote for that road, if you do not do A, B, and C, we are going to impeach you, which was a threat. And Mr. Speaker said it can also be a threat which can come to the national level if misused. Members of the National Assembly can also use that as a threat to members of the executive, that if you do not do A, B, and C, you will be impeached. Speaker, sir, I was the Attorney General of this country for many years, and I know that people who are very prone, at that time, who are very prone to being a motion of no confidence, were the officers which, by the nature of their officers, they were doing what they were required to do under the Constitution, which was not necessarily popular with the people. And here, Mr. Speaker, sir, I speak particularly of the Office of the Attorney General at that time, now is the DPP, who is exercising those powers. I was speaking particularly also of the PS Interior. I'm also speaking particularly also PS Finance. Those three officers, Mr. Speaker, sir, they are prone to threats from the members of the legislature that we shall impeach you we shall pass a motion of no confidence in you because you have not done one or two things in my constituency and so on. Here we are saying that this power should not be exercised just flippantly in that manner. It really has to be a gross violation of human rights, of the Constitution. It really has been gross misconduct. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are now currently seeing what's going on in America. It may not be impeachment, but it's a confirmation of an office of the Supreme Court. And the issue, I was just looking at the news, CNN news now, is this. This candidate, nominee, when he talked about whether he drinks or not, he was candid. He had said that when he was young, he used to drink, but he did not drink to an extent where he would sexually violate or sexually harass somebody. But then there, the classmates are coming up and saying, no, he was all the time drinking, he was all the time doing this and that. Now, that issue, now it has become an issue to be discussed the whole day on CNN, on whether or not he was cheating and therefore whether he is fit to hold the post of the Supreme Court judge. Mr. Speaker, sir, therefore, the issue here, and we have made it very, very clear in this bill, it must be a serious matter. The other one is clause 33, which the mover, the chairman, mentioned. Courts should only come in after a decision has been made. Part of the problem, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we experienced was that courts were intervening at all stages, you know. In fact, they began intervening at the initial stage as the county assembly. When the county assembly was beginning to move, they would intervene there. Then when it came here, they'll start intervening. And this takes time. It takes time for the court to deal with the matter. It takes time for, even when the court has dealt with the matter, it takes time for the appeal to be heard. And hence, that case went on until the very end of 5 years. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have dealt with that mischief under clause 33, which talks about that the courts can only review the matter after a final decision on impeachment has taken place. In other words, there ought to be a respect of the various organs of government. Parliament, Senate in particular, has been given the powers to impeach. Let that process be completed first before another organ interferes with the process. And so it's very clear. Now, if we have to impeach, and clause 9, I think it's clause 9. Clause 9 is very, very clear. I think it's clause 9 is very clear in saying that once the majority, the two-thirds majority have decided on this matter, the decision is final and the governor in this case stands impeached. Clause 9. Clause 9 is at page I know it's clause 9. It stands, no, not clause 9, sorry. It's 19, I'm so sorry. 19.1 says the majority of the county delegation of the Senate, if they vote in support of the impeachment charge, A, the governor shall cease to hold office. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important to note that because of the seriousness of this matter, a decision can only be made by 2/3 of the members of the Senate. 2/3 in the case of the president, and the majority in case of the governor, Mr. Speaker, sir. Now, 2/3. Why it is 2/3 underlies the importance of the decision they are making, which is both political and legal. That even after the legal requirements have been satisfied, the political requirements must also be satisfied. And the political requirements will be satisfied when 2/3 of the members sitting can vote in support. Why this is serious, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that to amend this constitution, apart from those matters which have been reserved to be amended through a referendum, all other matters can be amended by the National Assembly and the Senate by, again, 2/3 of the members sitting. So the requirement of the 2/3 shows, Mr. Speaker, sir, the seriousness of this matter. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have also made it clear in this bill that although it is our function to be doing this, to be carrying out this function, it's our mandate and so on, we would like the public also, in a sense, to see what we are doing. In other words, to see that what we are doing in a very transparent and open manner. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, sir, at page 3, clause 32, subclause 2, states very clearly that all the proceedings under this act shall be open to the public, unless in exceptional circumstances where the person presiding over the proceedings has determined that there are justifiable reasons for the exclusion of the public. And normally those justifiable reasons in law are reasons which touch on the security of the country. So where that very serious impending danger is that the security of the country may be disclosed, and that could endanger the very existence of the republic, security and so on, then that aspect of the evidence goes in camera. But everything else, the public will be entitled to witness and say, yes, this has happened. Yes, we voted for the president. Yes, we voted for the governor. And although we voted for him, we have now seen in a very open and transparent manner that he is guilty of gross misconduct, guilty of gross violation of human rights, and therefore he should be removed. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are saying this because there were also, during the public hearings, suggestions that we should not have those powers to remove somebody that has been elected by the people, that the matter should be referred to the people through a referendum as to whether or not that person should be removed, so that the people themselves should vote in a referendum on the issue. But Mr. Speaker, sir, you know what happens during the referendums. There can be an injustice. People may not necessarily decide on the merit of the matter, but they may decide on the politics of the matter, and therefore it becomes necessary that when it's a judicial matter, it will be determined in accordance with the procedure that we have outlined under this particular bill. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, with those few remarks, I support the bill.
Just in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's not easy to speak after the AG Emeritus of the Republic, but I will try my best and make my contributions. And I'd like to congratulate the chairperson of Standing Committee on Legal Affairs and Human Rights for bringing this. As I contribute, Mr. Speaker, it's with a mixed bag of observations that I support this bill. I support this bill because, of course, in our mandate to legislate and to give effect to articles, broad articles of the Constitution, and provide frameworks that actually actualize and operationalize some of these broad laws, the Senate has acted in good faith to ensure that we have legislation that gives guidance to and provides steps to be followed in matters so grave as impeachment of a president and deputy president, governors and cabinet secretaries and CECs. So in that respect, I support this because a country is only as strong as the strong institutions and the strong systems and processes it has in place. Otherwise, then it will be dependent on the whims and of anybody that then feels one day could misuse some of the powers they may have. So in that respect, Mr. Speaker, this is a very timely bill and gives effect, of course, to Articles 145, 181, and a lot of articles as regards impeachment and vacation of office of some of these offices. And again, of course, I'm happy that it is guided by Article 10 with regards to the national values and principles of governance. That's all good. But I think the other aspects of I don't know if Article 33, as the AG Emeritus has mentioned, of all proceedings under the Act being open to the public constitutes a public participation or enough public participation. Mr. Speaker, what I noted in this bill is that the President was brought to office by universal suffrage, by the people. At what point do they have a say in his removal? At what point do the people of a county perhaps have a say? Is there any say? Of course, we are the representatives of the people, and on their behalf, we're acting. But there's a very good reason why the public participation bill is such an important part of our constitution, or public participation is such an important part of our constitution. So I may be guided, because I'm not a lawyer. I know there's Article 33, which says all proceedings under the Act shall be open to public unless in exceptional circumstances, but is open to public the same as public participation? And is there a provision? And if there's none, I would request that the drafters of this bill, in an attempt to provide good framework to actualize and to give effect to the articles of impeachment within our own constitution, to ensure that then, as much as we legislators are going to be the people that impeach and have the power to impeach, perhaps they also have a say within this process as we go along. I know that the legal arm has been given a provision, as very well articulated by Senator Amos Wakwan under Article 33, but I didn't see the public participation aspects coming on, and as proponents of public participation within the Senate, this Senate should also make sure that the legislation it brings sort of provides that as well. So in terms of institutional strengthening and giving credence and giving effect to our constitution, I support the bill. Again, one of the things that the legislative arm should always provide its citizens is options. Wherever there's a challenge of whatever nature, we should provide options. And this bill does provide options for removal from office of certain, of certain key holders of office, so to speak. Now, some of the shortcomings I'm sure can be looked into, and I think the lawyers have pointed out with regards to ensuring that there's proper definition of some of the provisions in terms of what constitutes different things, gross violations, what constitutes other violations of national and international laws that I will not go into. So for me, the non-emphasis on public participation was an interesting one that I thought could be looked into. The timelines also, Mr. Speaker, I felt for something so important as to remove a president or or a CEO of a county, then perhaps those timelines may need to be relooked, because then we don't want to put for ourselves certain prescriptive timelines that then become very hard for this Senate to keep to, or the National Assembly for that matter. Again, Mr. Speaker, with regards to oversight, the reason why I again support this bill is that oversight should start by us, and especially clarifying the roles, responsibilities, and what is to be measured, what the process that is going to be followed, for us then to hold our executives, both at national and county levels, accountable. So in as far as our role under Article 96 of oversight and our role under Article 6 of legislation is concerned, then this bill really does do justice to those two mandates that were given by the Constitution. That said, in support of this bill, Mr. Speaker, it read very much like the Constitution itself. I know there are certain provisions that read exactly like the Constitution and other laws, and so if we could just break it down a little more, providing more, providing more definition of some of the provisions that already exist in the same format then. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, I don't wish to speak too much on this, having all our lawyers having spoken on them quite elaborately. But in terms of the spirit of our mandate of legislating, on oversighting and providing the right systems and processes in place and giving effect to provisions on the broad laws and breaking it down for things that we can do in our legislative process to hold ourselves and our executives accountable, and perhaps then to rectify or wrong, to correct whatever wrongs, be they legal, be they international laws that have been breached. Then this provides a very good framework that can be followed by this House and perhaps even by the National Assembly, and I feel that should be supported. That said, with regards to the content, like has been pointed out, with regards to perhaps certain definitions, with regards to public participation, and with regards perhaps to the loop to finish what we started. Again, I know it starts off from a member of parliament initiating, but perhaps I wondered, is there any provision for a member or citizen of this country perhaps to initiate some of these things? Or are we just hogging the powers that has been entrusted to us by the same people? So is there any provision in anywhere that perhaps could be looked into, so that then this is a shared responsibility and this is a shared accountability, and as much as then we, the representative of the people, can at least share that responsibility. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, and I think it's about time that we support it with whatever with whatever enhancements and whatever corrections that may need to be made with regards to the feedback that has been given on the floor of the House. I support and look forward to perhaps its implementation in the life of this Parliament. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Abshiro. Senator Stewart Matsayo.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuweza kueleza maoni yangu juu ya mswada huu. Kitu cha kwanza ningependa kumpatia kongole ndugu yetu Seneta Cheregai kwa kuweza kuleta mswada kama huu. Najua ni kwa sababu baada ya muda ameweza kukaa na akatafakari na akaona kunao muhimu wa kuleta mswada kama huu. Kitu cha kwanza, mimi kama mwanasheria nataka kusema ya kwamba kusimamisha mfanyikazi wa serikali, tukianzia rais, naibu wa rais, tukija katibu ndani ya baraza la mawaziri. Vile vile tukija kwa upande wa gavana anayetawala kaunti aliyochaguliwa, na vile vile tukija upande wa wale wanaochaguliwa na gavana kufanya kazi na yeye kama mawaziri wake wadogo. Lakini tunajua wao pia wanajiita mawaziri. Sijui ni kwa sababu gani hatujaweza kuchukua hatua ya kurekebisha jambo kama hilo, Bwana Spika. Lakini Bwana Spika, wanajiita hivyo ama wanajipatia majina kama hayo, na tumeenda katika mikutano mbalimbali na natumaini pia ulikuwa katika mkutano mmoja wapo ambao hawa watu walikuwa wanaweza kujiita mawaziri pia, ambapo tunajua sisi waziri ni yule anayechaguliwa na Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Lakini hayo kuyaweka kando, tunajua mashtaka au madai ya kuweza kumuondoa kiongozi kwa mamlaka kama hao niliowataja, hasa tukiangalia katika yale mashtaka, ni lazima yawe mashtaka ambao yanaweza kuwa na uzito fulani. Na huu mswada ni muhimu sana kwa sababu katika bunge lililokwisha, mimi nikiwa mmoja wa wale maseneta ambao bunge hili la Senate liliweza kutuchagua na pia tukaweza kusimamia mashtaka kama haya ya kuweza kumwachisha kazi gavana wa Murang'a aliyekuwa anaitwa Mwangi wa Iria. Hatimaye haikuweza kufaulu kwa sababu alikimbia kotini na koti ikatoa uamuzi na akaweza pia kusimamisha bunge kufanya shughuli zake. Na zaidi sana, Bwana Spika, mswada huu sisi kama wabunge ambao tumechaguliwa na tukiwa na majukumu kama haya, sheria hii ni muafaka sana kwa wakati huu. Tunajua kumekuwa na waongozi baada ya wanaopewa nyadhifa za uongozi wamekuwa wakizembea kazi, na kimbilio lao kubwa limekuwa ndani ya koti. Tunasema hivi sasa mswada kama huu uweze kufafanua vyema ya kwamba ukiwa utaanzishwa, koti isimame kwanza, ingoje mpaka sheria hii ambayo itakuwa imechukuliwa na hatua ya bunge la Senate imalizike. Na wakati ikiwa imalizika, sasa mtu anaweza kupewa nafasi ya kuenda kwingine na kuweza kufanya juhudi kama hizo, kusimamisha kesi kama hii. Bwana Spika, mimi ninaona kwa maoni yangu mswada kama huu umelenga haswa zaidi ya upande ule ambao watu watakuwa wanavunja sheria. Kuna njia mbili, Bwana Spika, kwa uvunjaji wa sheria. Kuna uvunjaji wa sheria ukiwa ndani ya ofisi, kuna uvunjaji wa sheria ukiwa nje ya ofisi. Na haswa tunaona ya kwamba wale ambao wanapewa nafasi kama hizi wanafanya mashirika tofauti tofauti ya serikali. Kumekuwa na uvunjaji wa sheria. Sisi tunasema ya kwamba hii sheria kama hii iweze kufafanua zaidi. Imeweza kuleta mambo tofauti tofauti, lakini tunasema ya kwamba muda uliopewa, kwa maoni yangu mimi ninaweza kusema ya kwamba muda uliopewa wa siku kama 30 kufanya shughuli kama hii ndani ya bunge ni muda mwafaka kabisa. Lakini kama tungekuwa tunaweza, ingekuwa ukimpatia mtu nafasi kama hii, Bwana Spika, utakubaliana na mimi ya kwamba nafasi ya siku 30, mimi kama wakili, kama ni hasara ama wazungu wanasema damage, ambao mtu anaweza kufanya akipewa muda kama huu, anaweza kujitetea vilivyo. Kwa mimi ningeona ya kwamba muda ule ambao tumeweka ukipunguzwa, itakuwa jambo bora zaidi katika sheria hii ikiwa itapitishwa hapa. La mwisho, Bwana Spika, ningependa kutia sisitizo zaidi ya kwamba fitina ni kiegezo kibaya, na mara nyingi tunaona ya kwamba magavana wamekuwa wakifanya kazi katika kaunti zao, aidha wakiogopa mamlaka ambao MCAs wanaweza kuchukua na kuweza kuchukua hatua kama hii, ama gavana kuweza kukubaliana na wao ili aweze kujiokoa na aendelee na kazi. Haswa zaidi nikisema kwa sababu gani nasema namna hii, ni kwa sababu utapata ya kwamba wakati mwingi wale ma MCA wakati ule ilikuwa kuanzisha shtaka kama hili, ilikuwa ni lazima kwanza waweze kumwambia gavana ya kwamba usipofanya kitendo fulani sisi tutachukua hatua fulani. Na mimi nasema hiyo ilikuwa mambo ya fitina, na hii mswada kama huu ambao umekuja mbele yetu sasa hivi sasa umefutilia mbali kuangalia mambo ya fitina. Ni lazima uwe na mambo kamili ambao uko nayo katika mashtaka, Bwana Spika, ili uweze kuleta shtaka la kuweza kumsimamisha mtu anayefanya kazi katika serikali. Asante Bwana Spika.
Asante Senator Msuruve.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to add my voice to this important motion. And this is a motion, Mr. Speaker, that really affects us, and it is within our mandate as a Senate, Mr. Speaker, with regard to devolution and with regard to supporting the county, the interests of the county governments. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I want to begin by commending Senator Cheregai for this particular motion. And Mr. Speaker, this is a motion that is affecting very, very important people in this country, Mr. Speaker. When you're talking of the executive of the national and the executive of the county governments, these are governments that really are important with regard to running of the government, Mr. Speaker. So I want to say, Mr. Speaker, first of all, the issue of procedure. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, I'm not a lawyer by profession, but I feel, Mr. Speaker, that my thoughts are very important.
You're a lawyer by what? You're just not a lawyer, period, isn't it? You can't say I'm not a lawyer by profession. You're a lawyer by...
I'm not a lawyer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for
Or you can
that.
say
I'm
you are
a
not
lawyer.
professionally a lawyer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not professionally a lawyer, but I'm an educationist. And I want to say that I really appreciate this motion that has been brought up by our legal committee. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that it is a well-thought motion. Because, Mr. Speaker, removal of the executive at national level and county level should not be done at a twinkle of an eye. The issue of procedure is quite good, Mr. Speaker, because one, it gives both sides time to actually evaluate the actions that are going to be taken. Now, on the part of the motion, the bill says clearly that, first of all, it has to go to the Speaker. And then the Speaker has to evaluate and see, is the motion valid? If the motion is valid, then it goes to the next level. If the motion is not valid, then the Speaker can dismiss it, but dismiss it with reason, Mr. Speaker. And I feel this is very good because by the time it's going to the next level, it already has the blessings of the Speaker that indeed there is need for it to go on, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that constitutionally there are grounds for removal of the executive. like in terms of if the executive is incapacitated. But again, the beauty of it is that there has to be evidence by medical practitioners that indeed the executive cannot perform. And if the executive cannot perform, then it goes to the next level, that legislators have to actually agree that indeed the executive is not able to perform, then the executive can be impeached. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the Act of Procedure is important because, one, it will minimize malice. In a situation where maybe there's a cartel that decides we want to impeach, a certain executive for whatever reason. Now, the procedure allows for the executive also to defend himself. And I want to say that it is humanly right for a leader to come and defend himself. And when a leader defends himself, then he will actually say, he will give evidence of having walked his talk. And Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that when it comes to issues of abuse of office is actually arbitrary. There is need to also define what exactly is abuse of office, Mr. Speaker. Because I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that this bill is important. It is not about the governors in position now. It is not about the presidents in position now. It is not about the executive in position now, but it is about the future of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Because this bill will actually set the pace. And when it comes to also the issue of standardization, the fact that the bill supports that there's need to standardize removal of executives, that is very good, Mr. Speaker, because there's going to be a clear and fair playing ground for all the leaders, Mr. Speaker. And there will be need to refer to this bill. And if this bill is going to become law, then, Mr. Speaker, the issue of objectivity will be addressed, as opposed to subjectivity, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say that the fact that the Senate is also brought on board to really actually participate in this action of impeachment, it is quite in order, Mr. Speaker, because Senate has a mandate. And mandate of the Senate also is directly into the counties, to represent the counties and protect the interests of the counties. So, Mr. Speaker, if a governor is brought before the Senate ought to be impartial and listen to the governor and listen to the evidence and see, is it really, is it really malice or is it really objective? So, Mr. Speaker, I really support this motion because, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say that it is not an easy moment even for the leaders when they wake up one morning and they're not
violated a written law. You must quote the section of the Constitution violated. You must quote the section of the law violated. If they have committed offenses, you must cite the offense committed and the law transgressed, so that it becomes very clear. You don't have to quarrel with somebody in a social place, and because you can command the respect of your house, the next day you want to bring impeachment proceedings under the color of violation of law. This is very important, Madam Speaker, because everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And everybody who is got allegations against them must be subject to due process. Like we say, Madam Speaker, I don't like what you say, but I'll die defending your right to say it because of the rights of people as enshrined in the Constitution and the right to due process. There's nobody who is presumed guilty until they prove themselves innocent. Everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So I support this bill, Madam Speaker, and congratulate the Committee on Legal Affairs and the Chairman of Samson Cherargei for designing and bringing a bill that gives effect to impeachment clauses and chapters of the Constitution so that it becomes clear, it becomes easy, it becomes determinate. I do not believe, I heard one senator say that we need to subject this process to public participation. It might just end up being a mob lynch, Madam Speaker. And I don't think it is necessary. If you are representatives of the people, then you represent those people out there. You can't take then a president and take him to Uhuru Park and ask a mob to declare his innocence or guilt, Madam Speaker. And that is not the way to go in any civilized society. The House of Parliament is respected as a palais, as a representative of the people who elected representatives to this House. And when they act on behalf of those people. So I want to discourage any notion that public participation, we should also not overstretch public participation, because it's good. I have been sitting in committees, Madam Speaker, and what we've been calling public participation, particularly in the Committee of Finance, year in, out, there are only 4 people who appear before us. Same people every year on everything. I represent an NGO, I represent a pressure group, I represent street people, I represent I don't know who. It just becomes sometimes a playground for busybodies. And it becomes very difficult to make things work. Let's give houses of parliament, the assemblies at the county level, the National Assembly, with a proper hierarchy. Whoever was in doubt as to the hierarchy of houses in this house must read this bill and look at the Constitution and see that the National Assembly indicts. This House tries. This House convicts. And this House has the final word on the impeachment of a president and the deputy president. That is the pecking order. And it's not a matter for public debate anymore. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Susan Wakarura Kihika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to also support this bill. It's a bill that, as a committee, I do sit in the Legal and Justice Affairs Committee. It's one where we have really deliberated over a lot of the issues that have been raised by the members. And it's a very, very timely bill, in my opinion, given that the last session was the first under the new constitution and with the new institutions. And as such, a lot of the issues that came up regarding impeachments were probably really in earnest just being experienced and put into practice. And as such, now we have realized where the gaps are, and we are trying to seal those gaps. Madam Speaker, when you look at the bill, the offices here that under this impeachment bill, the offices mentioned, be they that of the president and the deputy president, the cabinet secretaries, the governors and deputy governors, as well as the county executive committee members. These are really important offices with very important mandates, and it's important that we have a very standardized process, and also a process where going in, we know what is expected. Like some of the members have said, it's something that I've also seen having worked in the counties, where you may wake up one day, and for some reason, maybe somebody wanted to go on a trip, and there was no money for them to go, and the next thing you hear the chance of impeachment. Or in the event where maybe a governor or another person maybe does not bend to what is being asked of them, be it illegal or for whatever purpose or for whatever reason, then you hear that impeachment is about to begin. So I really believe that this bill will help us in being able to understand and to know what exactly is the threshold, when you can bring this impeachment, and you'll have to be able, as a person moving that motion or bringing that impeachment, you'll have to be able to show what exactly the violation is. And it's not just minor violations, but we are talking about gross violation of the Constitution or any other law, or gross misconduct, or if the person has committed a crime under national, international law, that sort of stuff, so that we do away with the minor petty reasons that we've sometimes heard when impeachments have been mentioned. In addition to that, the bill has given the process, the actual process, the timelines, and what it takes to bring out the impeachment. be it it begins at the National Assembly, if it's a cabinet secretary, the president or the deputy president, and then goes through the process for however many days, requiring however many signatures to even bring that process to begin with to the speaker. And also, once the speaker has approved the number of days under which the motion, the notice of motion has to be moved, and eventually also the number of days that the motion must be brought on the floor. I also join another colleague who stated that we probably should not, on such serious issues such as the impeachments, or in the impeachments here we are talking about, we probably should not have select committees. We've seen that get abused. We may not necessarily have any hard facts, but we are all alive to what we read in the social media. And we know that it's a lot easier, as it seems, allegedly, to corrupt a small group versus do so on the floor of the House. So I would probably also prefer to see it go straight to the House versus versus a select committee in these proceedings. I know, like, for example, when I worked in the county assemblies, it was, the assemblies could not impeach the county executive members. And that was really a problem, because you would have these executive members walk around with impunity. They feel like they don't have to perform, they don't have anything, I mean, they don't have to do what they're supposed to do. Some of them, you would find a CEC, for example, for finance, where the law is very clear on when they need to bring what to the county assemblies, but they still don't do that. And at the end of the day, there was nothing really that could be done to them because we could not impeach them, and there was a judgment to that effect. So with this bill, they will no longer sit that comfortably. As much as we don't want them being impeached because, for example, they did not give the members of the county assembly money to go attend sports in Kisii County for a week, which I've had as a ground of impeachment, as much as we don't want that to happen, in the sense of we do not want frivolous impeachments, we also need to make sure that for everybody who is employed in these very, very important offices, with these very important mandates, they also don't just sit comfortably and not perform their duties, but they know that at the end of the day, they are accountable and they could be sent packing. So I think this is truly important so that everybody is held accountable. We also had that issue where during some of our public participation, we had groups that were suggesting that we should not, as Parliament, be it the National Assembly, the Senate, or the county assemblies, be able to impeach these office holders, but we should subject them to public participation and let the public decide, so to speak. But I also agree with the senator from Bungoma who spoke just before me. That would be ludicrous, because that is insane. That would be crazy, because at the end of the day, the public elected the members who sit both at the National Assembly and at the Senate, as well as the county assemblies. And one of the major roles of us legislators is representation. So as we sit here, I represent the people of Nakuru County, and I should be able to use my judgment and properly do so in executing this mandate. So I do not believe that there should be room for the impeachments to be done by the public, but they should stay, as the bill states, right here at the National Assembly, the Senate, or the county assemblies. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, we've also had a bit mentioned about the timelines. Some members maybe have found them a bit too short or a bit too quick for the process. But I believe that with these sort of things, such as an impeachment, say for example that of the president, you really don't want to have it extended for days and days on end, because that would probably make the country very unstable, and it would also give way for a lot of monkey business, so to speak. I think that was the term used a lot by my chair of the legal committee. So I think that the timelines are okay, but obviously as a committee we are open to suggestions from members on what they think would be more appropriate. But we also considered what other jurisdictions are doing, what their timelines are, in deciding or in settling for the timelines that we have on the bill. So I believe it's been well thought out, but once again, as I said, we are open to suggestions from members on any amendments as far as those timelines.
For this time you've given me to also speak to this bill. First of all, I wish to really thank the legal committee led by our the able chair, Senator Cherarge, for thinking through this wonderful bill. Madam Speaker, I think this bill, once it's passed, it's going to serve as a cure to the many ills that we've been seeing in the counties and in various levels of government. Madam Speaker, right now, as things are standing even in our country, it is not uncommon to come across or to hear that there is corruption in these areas. A certain officer has worked in this manner in a way that we can easily be able to label all of them into these various issues of either abuse of office, gross misconduct, or in this case, gross violation of the law, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, without a clear legal law, what happens is that those officers in this case will work with a lot of impunity. However, with such a law, this in this case will enable the particular or the concerned officers to carry out their activities according to the law, and in this case, be informed of the fact that in case they'll mess up, what happens is that they'll base the particular law. Madam Speaker, I support this law, this bill, because of the fact that for the first time, the executive will be forced to perform according to their expectation, and in any case, be able to give the electorate, or in this case, those who chose them and put them in those various offices, value for their money. I think many a times, particularly when we think about the various levels of government, we do realize that there are a lot of complaints. It is not uncommon to find complaints in all levels of governments, and in any case, the reason for performing in that manner is because somebody can get away without any law having to ensure that they are in this case put to answer. Madam Speaker, I also wish to support this more particularly because I think for the first time, this bill has actually ordered or put in a layer of the various committees in various levels that is applicable to each category of officers. And I'm imagining this particular committee will conduct a thorough investigation before being able to advise the actual body that is going to carry out the final impeachment. Madam Speaker, just like some of my colleagues have already spelled out, this bill will also spell out the timeline to expense of the particular case. Because, Madam Speaker, there are cases that have been reported in various levels, or sometimes we've even had people in the past being taken to court, and in any case, those cases are struck for many years. And Madam Speaker, justice delayed is justice denied. And I'm imagining with these timelines, this country or the various levels of governments, in this case, will know that it is no longer business as usual. Madam Speaker, I also wish to support this particular bill because this legal structure that has been put in place will ensure that before an impeachment, in this case, is brought forward, the concerned people must have conducted a thorough analysis to ensure that this is the actual accusation, because, Madam Speaker, you are aware of the many impeachment actions that were conducted in the 11th Parliament, and even right now, as we are speaking, there have been in some areas cases where impeachment has been going on without following any order, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill, in this case, will be able to speak to those various kinds of malice where we have people waking up one time because of maybe they are just, they have crossed one another. So maybe at the course of their work, provision of services in the various levels of work, the particular executive may have come across these members, their members, or rather have crossed one another at the course of their performance of duty. And in any case, such ERCs, such activities, like somebody was quoting a case of even not as supporting some group of people to go for a trip elsewhere, and what it is that one is brought up as an impeachment act. And in any case, with this particular legal procedure, I'm sure for the first time, this one here, we shall not have issues of play just being displayed openly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, clause 8 under the county impeachment of executives, that is together with clause 11B, Madam Speaker, is going to bring a cure to a case where once allegations have been thrown out, we also have immediately a malicious group coming up with the same issues, Madam Speaker. I think I love this one particularly because it is saying, that is in clause 11B, where it is saying this, only this will be reintroduced maybe in the county assembly on the expiry of 90 days from the date of the vote of by the county assembly under subsection 8. Madam Speaker, I think this one here will enable even the concerned officers to conduct their jobs, or in this case to be able to carry out their duties without any disturbance, without any worries, because when we get people threatening one, that they can easily be impeached, and then after even going to a court to bringing a court order to stop this, we have the same people maybe bringing impeachment allegations immediately after 1 week. Madam Speaker, finally, I wish to say the last point I wish to put forward to support this bill is because of the fact that there is a provision for public participation. Madam Speaker, I think the public have been crying for public participation in many issues, Madam Speaker, and this, in this case, while the public may not be having the legal understanding, the public, Madam Speaker, can be able to provide what you call the social audit, and I think this can be able to add to whatever is going on in terms of impeachment. Madam Speaker, I wish to support this, and once again, say that we thank the legal committee for bringing such a great bill, and we look forward to this bill being passed, and I'm sure once it is passed, our country will not be the same again. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Honorable Senators, I see no further requests, so I would like to request the mover to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulate you for hosting us very well in Uasin Gishu County during the inaugural sitting outside Nairobi, and for your meticulous arrangements that our sitting for the last 1 week went very well. And I know the great people of Uasin Gishu County and the entire North Rift and the country at large will be now able to celebrate and appreciate the role of Senate, so that we don't see tired agendas, strategies, aims, and schemes to remove Senate, which some of our colleagues in the National Assembly are trying to engage themselves. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I want to thank my colleagues. I have listened, I've heard what they have said, I've heard their opinions, their proposals, their ideas on how we can refine and fine-tune the bill to the standard that is required to ensure that there is efficiency in discharge of the legal implications that this law will bring into place. I want to assure my colleagues all those issues you have raised, the opinions, concern, comments, and advice will be taken with seriousness it deserves. And Madam Speaker, we'll see how we can incorporate most of those, because our interest is to ensure that this bill, when it becomes or is assented to law by the President and comes to the full force, Madam Speaker, it will be able to fulfill its agenda that was meant to be. Madam Speaker, on public participation, I know this House is considering public participation bill sponsored by one of my committee legal members, Senator Amos Wako, the AG Emeritus, because you realize, Madam Speaker, that the Constitution in itself, in any form or in any engagement that involves the public, Madam Speaker, has been given the necessary concern through the public participation. And I think as a country, Madam Speaker, the reason we have ensured that public participation forms the entire fabric of this law is because we appreciate that the people that I think Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. it says legal, political, not quasi, he was bringing that aspect. The people you are subjecting to them, be either the president, where the National Assembly is becoming the indictment chamber, to the Senate, where it's becoming the trial chamber, are people that have been elected. And they enjoy the universal suffrage of Kenyans. And therefore, it would be unfair if the public is not assisted in is not part of the process in removing either the governor, the deputy president, the cabinet secretary, the chief executive, the deputy governor, Madam Speaker. Therefore, I think public participation, and I agree with my colleagues that we have given it the necessary focus that it should be, because removing somebody who was, you know, like for example here in Nairobi, the governor of Nairobi maybe got votes, or voters of Nairobi are around 1 million plus. Even Kiambu County, where I come from, is around 200,000. To reduce to a particular people to go and sit somewhere and remove that person would be unfair even to the person who has been elected, to the unfair to the public. So the public will have a critical role. And I know the many legal decisions that our courts of law have tried to develop on has been on the critical role that is played by public participation. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I agree with my colleagues that it has a bigger challenge, and that one is what is important we'll incorporate. Madam Speaker, on the issue of select committees, especially on the impeachment of the governor and the president, and the deputy president, deputy governor, we have introduced that might form a select committee, which to some instances, the select committee, Madam Speaker, of 10 people, I think we might play the suggestion that let us have a full house, Madam Speaker, where the entire Senate of the Republic of Kenya can sit and listen to those charges and vote on them, Madam Speaker. Therefore, we have used the word might. So it depends on the wisdom of the Speaker on the ruling of such when it comes to the Senate. But I will look at how to review that part of the select committee so that we can see what it can be done. So that the question is, Madam Speaker, I agree, the threshold is quite high because somebody you are trying to impeach, especially for the people who enjoy the universal suffrage or being elective position like the governor, deputy governor, president and deputy president, where you are now saying you want to remove them through the impeachment proceedings to some extent because of how they were elected, you must be very careful on how they are removed so that you don't risk either the court proceedings. And I think I want to ask my colleagues that on the issue of challenging through the court process, we have changed where, now there was a habit where somebody is supposed to be impeached, someone rushes to court and they get an injunction, or they want to stop the proceedings, maybe the impeachment proceedings. Madam Speaker, we have given them opportunity so that by the time you are going to court, you can examine the entire process. It can be reviewed and you can exhaust legal processes or legal mechanisms that are in place from the High Court to the highest level that we have in this country through the Supreme Court. And I think those are the issues that I want to assure our colleagues they have raised, but we'll fine-tune on that. And in fact, even as we seek to amend the section 33 of number 17 of 2012, we amend that now that that section 33 and 40 was being used by members of county assembly, we are trying to amend so that we can now put it into one. And our main concern as a committee, Madam Speaker, as always, to ensure that we bring one legislation that will encompass this. And I think my seconder, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., said there is an import of some sections of the Constitution into this bill. Not that some of it is copy and paste. Not that, Madam Speaker, is we want to duplicate in any way the Constitution, but what we are saying is we want to bring it under one law so that we exhaust the entire procedure, so that we ensure the procedure is standardized and ensure that, because even the introduction of prescribed forms that we have introduced, especially when you want to remove maybe a CEC, a governor, the president in the level of National Assembly, Madam Speaker, we would be factored and ensure that all those issues are. And in fact, a special committee that is in place, because they were using the removal of governor section 33 and section 40 on the CEC. And I think the biggest, some of the colleagues raised, what is gross misconduct and terms of violating the Constitution, or we will need to ensure that all these grounds that has been stated by the Constitution and others that have been stated by the section 40 of the County Government Act, and also section 33 on the removal of the governor. And I think, Madam Speaker, on that definition will ensure that it becomes precise and the factors are provided for, so that we ensure we provide the necessary, and that is why we are provided under clause number 34, where the county government is amended by deleting section 33 and substituting therefore with new section 33, where we are saying the procedure for the removal of the president on grounds of capacity under Article 144 of the Constitution with necessary apply. I think this is very important. With necessary modification apply to the removal of the governor. And therefore the word subject to subsection 2 at the beginning, deleting. So, Madam Speaker, if you look at the schedule, we have introduced, therefore, with a new section. So we are trying to say modify in line with Article 144 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, and therefore to ensure, in fact, we are modifying with the necessary modification in line with Article 181 of the Constitution on the removal of the governor. And we have ensured that all this has been deleted section, and we have amended by substituting with the following, with the new section, that is section 33, in section 40, by deleting the word subject to subsection 2 appearing at the beginning of subsection 1, and deleting subsection 42 to 6. And I think this is important so that we import everything from the County Governments Act with necessary modification, and then with the necessary within the Constitution provided from the impeachment of the president and the impeachment of the governor. And of course, I want to assure my colleagues, they have said something I have not heard, but I think the prescribed form is where we want to ensure standardization is in place so that it is indicated, so that we have an issue where, Madam Speaker, it becomes easy. Madam Speaker, I think the development of, on the issue of legal process that is in court, we will ensure that, I want to ensure colleagues, because I know many colleagues have commented on the issue of timeline, we have ensured is as much as possible that it is as expeditious process, so that I indicated earlier that so that we don't have unnecessary delay, unnecessary anxiety, unnecessary monkey business where some few individuals, Madam Speaker, you know this country, if you are not careful, Madam Speaker, there is a lot of monkey business. So Kenyans, you give them 1 day, they can do a lot of things within 1 day. 24 hours, they can convert Kenya into heaven. So, Madam Speaker, you need to do it expeditiously so that by the time somebody is trying to, somebody is trying to become monkey business, we have finished. So that is why we hope the courts now, I know there are so many backlog cases within the judiciary and what have you, but now that we have put it in the law, just the way the election petition, the presidential petition was expeditiously done, providing these timelines within the judicial process, especially in challenging these proceedings in entirety. These proceedings in entirety will allow us to ensure and remain focused, Madam Speaker. And therefore, we will avoid this. You know the problem you challenge through the court process, we might be forced most of the time to, Madam Speaker, I can see my time is, up. I have not finished.
If you have not finished, Senator Jerargei, it can flow into tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yeah. Honorable Senators, Senator Jerargei, who was on the response, will still has 16 minutes that will be covered tomorrow. So for now, Honorable Senators, it's now 6:30 p.m. Time to interrupt the business of the Senate. The House therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 3rd October 2018 at 2:30 p.m.